A very good evening and a warm welcome to all our viewers to an interactive and informative discussion, Reimagining Design Solutions for Airports. Knowledge partner for today's session is Jaquar, Complete Bathroom and Lighting Solutions. Airport IoT, Characteristics of Ideal Airport Master Plan, the New Age Traveler Responding to World's Aerotropolises, the impact of technology interface in times to come, the scope to automate and adopt new technologies on older airports. Let us gain more insights from our eminent panel with rich experience from the airport infrastructure and design industry. Joining us today for this intrusive session are Mr. MOHIT HAJELA, who is also our moderator for today's session, Mr. Manoj Gangal, Regional Executive Director, Eastern Region, Airports Authority of India, Architect Abhin Alimchandani, Chairman, STUP Consultants, Architect Nandita Bhatt, Joint General Manager, Airports Authority of India, Architect Armando Solano, Associate, Zaha Hadid Architects, UK, Mr. Sandeep Shukla, Head Marcom, Global Operations, Jaquar Group. I hope we have an extremely informative discussion. Before we start the panel discussion, we would like to play a short AV, and thereafter, Mr. MOHIT HAJELA will be taking the lead. Thank you.
Good evening, viewers. On behalf of Jaquar Group and iDAC, I am MOHIT HAJELA, your host for the webinar today, titled Reimagining Design Solutions for Airports. And it's my esteemed privilege to welcome all of you. Thank you for joining us today. And to all the viewers who have been associated with us in the past in a series of Sensor and Sensibility, it's again a privilege to connecting back to you. Thank you so much for joining in. It was Le Corbusier who had said that a city made for speed is made for success. It is airports that enable the speed, and we see airports as the nucleus around which we can catalyze time-sensitive industrial ecosystems while balancing innovative business concepts, real estate, e-commerce, entertainment, and logistics capabilities. In fact, we live in a world where airports have increasingly come to define the character of a city and become a critical factor for the choice of a business location, tourism, urban economic growth, and global economic integration. A more profound or a more pronounced understanding is that the economic value that the cities of the future create will be maximized around airports. Time to share some statistics now, viewers. Airports in India have come a long way, handling from 59 million passengers in 2005 to more than 335 million in 2019. This growth has been made possible by a growing middle class, which is forecast to hit 300 million plus, economic growth that averaged almost around 7% per annum until recently, expanding urbanization, improving infrastructure, and favorable demographics. Indeed, consensus forecasts estimate that India will be the third largest aviation market by 2030. While the growth story is phenomenal, often overlooked is that at its core, the Indian market is very different. Whether it is the consumer behavior or the metro cities that account for 60% of the domestic traffic demand and 70% of international demand, or the price-sensitive nature of demand that have led to low-cost carriers grabbing 80% market share, the Indian aviation sector is different, which calls for airport development models that are fit for the country. The government continues its drive towards privatization of airports. The beginning of the year saw 48% of domestic capacity under public-private partnership airports, which may soon expand to 65% after the successful bids by Adani Airports for 6 airports. All in all, it's an interesting emerging space, and key to good master planning at airports is to keep 2 fundamentals in mind: the need to retain flexibility and the ability to create capacity. I repeat, the need to retain flexibility and the ability to create capacity. On this note, viewers, I begin the session today, and joining me is a very illustrious panel of experts and thought leaders coming as top government key decision makers, aviation infrastructure industry design experts and consultants, prolific architect representing internationally acclaimed design firm, and a global marketing head from the corporate world. Please join me to welcome Mr. Manoj Gangal, who is the Regional Executive Director, Eastern Region with Airport Authority of India. Manoj, it's absolutely a pleasure to welcome you on this forum. And Manoj brings in with him a vast experience in Indian aviation after commencing his career as early as 1986. And that history had put him in good stead at SVPI Airport, where he made significant changes to modernize its function. He's one of the only 2,000 international airport professional graduates from across the globe who together have developed the same principles which are used in Singapore, London, New York. Manoj's three decades of experience have given him the skills to coordinate the widely differing areas of responsibility that he deals on a daily basis. A pleasure having you on board, Manoj. Absolutely a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thanks so much.
Joining me next on the panel is Abhin Alimchandani, which I'm sure Abhin needs no introduction in this forum of such accredited listeners and viewers today. Abhin is chairman of STUP Consultants, as you all know. He is an architect on record and engineer on Bangalore Terminal 1, expansion with HOK, and on Terminal 2 with SOM, as well as Navi Mumbai project with Zaha Hadid. STUP is also project manager for Vijayawada, Jabalpur, Sindhudurg airports. He has mastered airport designs with Hyderabad, Agati, and Durgapur airports. STUP is also part of Master Plan Consortium for Noida with LNB and have executed several international projects globally as a design center. STUP further does master planning, terminal building design, including architecture, structure, MEP, and interior design in-house, as well as providing project management services for the project from concept to commissioning. Abhin designs all infrastructure in-house, such as airline design, runways, airport aprons, taxiway aprons, and pavement engineering, the landside access system that essentially entails roads and metros, which has inclusions of multi-stage car park, cargo and logistics, maintenance facilities, ground handling facilities, catering buildings, airport administration buildings, ATC towers, fire station. This requires multidisciplinary expertise of a team of airport specialists. What a pleasure, what an impressive track record of Abhin. It's absolutely a pleasure to have you on board. Joining me next on the panel is architect Nandita Bhatt. Nandita again is from the aviation infrastructure industry. She's joint general manager with Airport Authority of India. She has spent the past 20 years in aviation, specializing in airport design. In her enriching experience since 1996 in airport master planning and terminal design and airport management, she has worked as an architect, Department of Planning of Airports with Department of Planning with Airport Authority of India. In 2015, Nandita shifted her focus to airport management training. She is an ICAO qualified instructor and course developer with ICAO Train Air Plus program, and she's also a trainer at Indian Aviation Academy in various fields of designing greenfield buildings, general management, and very happy to say she also does a lot of motivational and inspirational talks. Indeed, a pleasure having you on board, Nandita. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Yeah.
And we have architect Armando Solano, all the way from UK, representing Zaha Hadid. Zaha Hadid needs no introduction with this fraternity of audience in India, and I'm sure all the viewers who are watching us from across the globe. Since joining Zaha Hadid in 2010, Armando has been responsible for project architect duties on Navi Mumbai International Airport and Western Sydney International Airport, including high-rises in Beijing, China. Previously, as an associate at the Los Angeles office of Frank Gehry, he coordinated architectural services for various international, commercial, residential, concert halls, and museum projects. Now, this is interesting. Concert hall and museum projects. Now, that's quite a diversity to offer, Armando. You know, I'm quite impressed, you know, to see this expanse of your expertise. And finally, joining me from the corporate side, we have Mr. Sandeep Shukla, who is head Marcom global operations for the Jaquar Group. Jaquar Group again needs no introduction. Sandeep he has worked as a marketing professional for over 2 decades. Sandeep brings with him immense experience in delivering strategic integrated marketing and communication solutions in categories relating to building and construction, retail and advertising. At Jaquar, he is responsible for helming the brand's marketing communication vertical across global markets. Absolutely a pleasure having you on board, Sandeep. I'm sure you bring in such a diverse experience, your portfolio, having worked across different genres, and I would say that yes, I know Sandeep very well, very closely. So it's absolutely a pleasure. He's a prolific management professional, having diversified experience across industries. So with this, we begin, viewers. We start with the round one, and I'd like to bring on center stage Mr. Manoj Gangal. Airports are economic multipliers. Multi-airports ensure benefits are distributed. Catchment areas are large, but only catered to by single airports.
Whatever I would be talking of my wisdom, whatever I have learned for more than 3.5 decades. And I would not be giving you the data and things like that, which are already available on internet and Google and things like that. So what I want to say is that wherever you go, for example, you take our country, the resources are in the remote areas. So the airports now are coming up, which are under regional connectivity scheme also. And from there, the connectivity is getting, for example, I have something like 25 airports, which I'm building up in the eastern region, which has about 7 states under eastern region. So now if I built up an airport, down something like Kuch Vihar, or I don't know whether you have heard about it or not. So if that airport gets connected with Kolkata and other parts of the country, so that's what we are talking about. And it's not just one airport coming up. With the airport, the roads come in, the railways come in, the waterways come in. Everything comes in with the airport. So in normal terms, that's what we call it as the multimodal transport or whatever we call it. But as far as the multiplier is concerned, I've been seeing this. For every 100 rupees what we spent on any airport which we built up, so about 3.25%, that is about 325 rupees I get in bargain. If I spend about 100 rupees on an airport, I get about 325 rupees back from that expenditure. And about 6.10 or you can say about 6 people get the employment in that. And so that is the huge multiplier impact and effect what we have whenever we built up airports. And these airports generally, when we built up on the remotest part of the country, they get connected with different parts, and that's what call it as multimodal transport system. So multimodal is
please continue.
So multimodal is not just you take one airport in a metro division or wherever. For example, you take Kolkata and link it up with rail transport or with waterways or whatever you want to do. But what we want to do is that build it up from the remotest part so that the remotest part gets connected and the economic development takes place. So that's what I would like to say. And that would really give a big rise to the economy, the employment, and everything around.
Surely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think that's a very interesting input. I mean, so I'm sure the country is there to witness a lot of expansion, a lot of regional connectivity now. I'm sure for the viewers and the audience, definitely that's very encouraging. And if he's looking at 25 airports in the eastern region alone, I'm surely this brings in a lot of confidence that we'll have some finest connectivity happening across east and northeast. I mean, getting represented as one area, one region. Thank you so much, Mr. Gangal. Thank you so much. Now, I think I'd like to draw in a perspective of a designer. Yeah, I'd like to draw in perspective from a designer, and I'd like to get Abhin Alimchandani onto the center stage. Abhin, tell me, what are the characteristics of an ideal airport master plan? How do you balance the capacity planning, essentially relating to the landside capacity, the airside capacity, in addition to the terminal capacity? Because a lot of time people have this feeling that, we have a lot of focus on the terminal, on the terminals. But, as an end user, I would possibly say, that once we commute, I mean, the kind of traffic jams we have, the kind of, the ease of entry and exit from an airport. And also how we integrate, I should say, the land side essentially, and the air side is any which ways. I mean, now it's with the 50 airports and so many airports under focus. I mean, I'm sure that that's a... So how do you balance? I think this is from the master planning perspective. How do you approach this?
That's a very, very interesting and very, very broad question. So I'll try and answer it in 5 minutes the best I can. I've had the good fortune of having worked with good architects and planners. And, for example, Airport de Paris, Goodman Stocker of Nordic. We're doing some work now on the terminal building with Hadid, as you know, Skidmore, Wing, Merrill. So working with all these master planners, learning over the last almost 20 years about master planning and then master planning project ourselves, I can say some of the principles. By the way, India is a great laboratory for, airport design, because we are going to have so many new airports coming, Mr. Gangal has said, and a lot of thinking has to go into how these airports are going to be contextualized. You're right, Mohit, that the communication, the access to the airport is also a great prime concern. The link between the access system, whether it be metro or it be road or public transport, that has to be very integrated. In fact, in Gati, we're designing an airport where when you land from the air, you're going to take a ferry terminal and you're going to go by motorboat. So it's different systems of transport, how they can come in interface and very seamlessly, completely link with the air traffic, control. Now, that is one aspect. Master plan is something completely unique. You see, an airport no longer is just a terminal, or no longer just a point of transition. Airports are destinations in themselves today. So when you're looking at, let's say, the Hyderabad International Airport on which we work, you see, at one level, it's a very functional airport. So you have to have all these functions in place. And these are very, very critical functions. It's no joke to be designing, an entire system of runways, aprons, taxiways, following international codes, and sizing these things properly with respect to the kind of aircraft there is. Only when you get an airport like this, you have an air traffic survey, you have a kind of business plan, you have a master plan, you have all the guidance, authority, ICAO, etc., and you work together with all these guidelines, and you try to size entire airport infrastructure. And you will believe that not only is function an important part of it, but what is the critical part of it? Actually service. Because the airport is all about service today. It is about actually delivering a quality of service to the commuter. As you were saying, commuters have completely changed. The airport experience has changed. So if you want to get a bang for your buck, you've got to see to it that the commuter wants to be there, wants to spend money there, and wants to be in that place. So what are the components that you look at? You look at, okay, getting a very, very functional and very, very flexible design to accommodate the kind of growth there will be in the air traffic. So the entire air side should be planned very, very well. Then, of course, the terminal building, which everyone's talking about, and we mentioned sizing. So right from the curb, how you size the curb, to how you size the check-in area, and then how you size the security and move into the retail, and then go on to the holding area before you, and then the entire arrivals. Keep it looped. Because one thing you have to remember is these plans are linked with business. So as the business models keep changing and airports keep growing, airports are like a city. It's very close to a smart city. It's basically something that grows over a period of time. So it's not something that is fixed. It should be something that can easily kind of expand and grow. And it should grow slightly. It should be able to grow differently. So sometimes the retail will grow. Sometimes the check-in area will remain the same. The piers will start growing. It all depends upon how the traffic moves and how the entire business plan plays out. Today we have PPP airports in India, and so this is even more critical. We are not designing airports for Maharajas. The real Maharaja is the user, and we've got to see to it that the user is comfortable and is able to spend. And even something like a car park, you don't want to invest in a multi-story car park in a small, you keep it outside. But as the peak hour traffic increases, as the airport becomes a more important destination, the car park becomes more important, and it's then required to become a multi-story car park. So how you invest in an airport is important, and it's not all about the terminal building. It's also about access to that as well. You'll agree. You need to have road connectivity for sure, sometimes rail connectivity, and the cargo building, of course, has to give on the apron, and it's perhaps almost as important a building as the terminal building. And of course, there are other critical buildings like fire stations, air traffic control towers. When we designed Hyderabad, I designed the air traffic control tower there. And you won't believe, we wanted to give it an image. The terminal building was what everyone was focusing on. And I said, no. In time to come, the symbol will be actually the air traffic control tower. And if you see the air traffic control tower, it has this kind of in Hyderabad. And actually the joke is, it's the color of Azharuddin, cricketer. And so these airports and these places are great image creating places, where you are actually creating an image for the city, because it's a gateway to the city. And it's also an image for the entire aero city, because the aero city is today an important city in itself, and it's a big real estate exercise. So really speaking, it's a question of how you design these things. There are a number of buildings. There's the landside loop, there's the aero city, there's the terminal thing. All these things have to come together into one comprehensive master plan. The master plan has to be flexible. It has to change with time. So that's really a challenge. And India is going to see a number of these master plans. The master plan in Bangalore, where we are doing the entire aero city now, it is a completely sustainable master plan. It's net zero. And that's what we will try to do while working on the Noida airport, okay, with the client as well, you try to plan a very, very sustainable master plan. And so these are concepts. The first green terminal building in India was at Hyderabad. It's a private airport, and first green. So these opportunities come because I think when we build so many airports, like Mr. Gangal is saying, and airport authority has put such fantastic criteria in these airports. I must tell you, Mr. Bhatt would know, being an architect, that all these airports, they want them to be thematic. So the airports we are doing at Vijayawada has to have a theme coming from Vijayawada. The one that we are designing at Jabalpur has to be coming from Jabalpur. So these are gateways to the city, and so these have character, out here. So this is a fascinating, area, and thank you for having this forum, where we can discuss this subject in detail.
No, surely. Thank you so much. I mean, this is very, very insightful indeed. And I'll come back to you, Abhin, again with a few more interesting, how you take this the entire concept forward. I'll come back to you. I'd like to get now Nandita onto the frame. Nandita, 50 airports in 10 years. Is India being overambitious? What is the center focus on upcoming airports? Short-term versus long-term goals. I'm sure you are into a real hot chair, because designing 50 airports in 10 years is not a joke by all means. And we in India fairly understand what it takes to do that. So how do you look at it? I mean, do you think, is it like it's like a quantum leap of faith when we are talking of these numbers? Or is it that it's already being envisaged beautifully? And, how do you look at it? I mean, characteristically, how do you balance short-term to long-term engagement into airports?
Okay, thanks, Mohit, and welcome to viewers. Now, matter of fact, I'm not only an architect and been in training. I'm today actually sitting as the airport director in Udaipur. And when you talk of these tier 2 or tier 3 cities, I think RCS becomes one of the major point of connections, what we are talking to the whole country. I always say one saying, and I'm probably going to read out some points which I was just trying to recollect just before this. So for this project, whenever people ask, is it over ambitious? I always tell them 2 sentences. One is, ambitions are enthusiasm with a purpose. So people need to actually get into the root purpose of why RCS scheme has been brought out. And the other is that if you don't have intelligent ideas without ambition, it's like having bird without wings. And we are the birds for the skies. So we have to know that why we are designing and what we are doing. And as the earlier 2 speakers have already told and spoken about Aerotropolises, master planning, and the concept of multimodal hubs, you need to understand that the whole purpose of transport is not to make societies separable, but get them connected. And the main purpose of RCS today is to get connected to the remotest of the zone. 2, also we are trying to get the unserved or underserved areas into connection with the rest of the country. Also, wherever we've been a little crosswinds with international borders also. As an example, if you all must have heard, the latest is Kushinagar on the packet that we are coming out with. And the whole game of doing such kind of small airports is not just economy rising, employment of those areas. It'll decongest our metros because people will now have a mode to travel there and work. Also, we are trying to make routes like could be a Buddhist circuit, could be a tourism. And if you today talk with me sitting here at Udaipur, I believe it's on the map when it comes to global wedding destination. And we still have so many places to be connected here and getting it rolling. So when we are giving those kind of examples, we also need to understand that you need to now decongest your metro cities. And economy is only going to rise and jump across when you have more opportunities for people to work in these smaller sectors, getting into deep-rooted city areas. 2, also, when you talk of airport authority, we being a part of the government entity, it's also a social cost for us to connect the people. So part of the scheme is also to ensure it's Udan scheme, what we call it as Ure Desh Ka Aam Nagrik. And that is what we are wanting. We are not just wanting airports to be a luxury destination branch. We are also wanting them to fulfill the necessity of a zone. You'll find many places where people are traveling to different world areas to work as labor. Now, their connectivity ranges is that they travel about 15 hours, 20 hours by buses, trains, reaching to the main metros and, taking the connectivity. Whereas now they do have a little affordability and they can use it. Next, another aspect which comes is also a medical aspect of the point. You are not reaching the good hospitals which can't be built with too much of high infrastructure at places where people and population is less. But you need to give them that kind of, infrastructure where they can come and at least get treated. So that's another important aspect that we look when we talk of the RCS scheme. So I think just to sum up quickly, for me, it would be we are channelizing the whole population in India is to get together. We are also using whatever has been there with us. India has been having an immense, not only culture and heritage, we have something lying from World War II airstrips, which have been here now. Another aspect which people fancy when they travel out is water aerodromes, which has come under the RCS scheme. So we are trying to make a water channel and get connected also when it comes to this kind of a transportation system. So I think that's one new aspect which is walking in through the RCS scheme which has come up. So for me, it's saying is channelizing all your energies and economies to increase, getting the youth of the tier 2 and tier 3 cities to a new employment, also tourism. I think that's one boost which will come up to be. We are one industry which runs hand in gloves, as you may say. So today, if COVID has happened, it's not just us, it's them who's equally been down with us. So we are hoping things are getting back to normal. So I'm not going to say it's over ambitious. It's actually now parallelly when you're going for other PPP modes and you're making something which is to get the global market inside, you're parallelly also getting and channelizing the aviation economy into the right direction, into the industry with the smaller cities walking in. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much. I think this was very insightful, Nandita, and who would beg to differ on this, that India is a country within a country. And needless to say, you are not only supporting the medical infrastructure, you're not only promoting medical tourism, I mean, it's like, it just entails a complete economic integration. And I can't agree more with you that regional connectivity is also a very strong enabler for a nation. And today when we look at, even if I look at it from the perspective of defense also, I think it is of a much strategic importance that we have tremendous regional connectivity in times to come, because I think your ability to move your troops, your ability to move your machined equipment, I think at the end of the day your response time is all that matters. And having enabled airstrips, what you mentioned about World War II, I mean those strips being made functional, I think it's a great initiative, and must compliment that. Yes, you are definitely on the hot chair, and this is I'm sure for the audience, this is I mean all the audience which is there today, I'm sure these words are very encouraging. Thank you so much, Nandita. Would like to bring now our friend Armando Solano from UK. He represents Zaha Hadid, and Zaha Hadid needs no introduction in this forum of top designers who are all linked to us today. I would like to ask you, Armando, that how is the new age traveler responding to world's Aerotropolis? Our Dubai World Center, DWC, Changi, Incheon, Dallas Fort Worth, Schiphol, to name a few, are they redefining the end customer experience? Armando.
Yeah, thank you, Mohit. I'll answer that question in kind of three parts. And the first one has to do with the fact that the new travelers, whether that's from emerging markets in India or China, or our recent experience in with airports in Mumbai and in Western Sydney, one thing that we keep hearing both from within the industry and within our clients is that the future of airport design needs to be more customer centric. So if you look at the last 40 years, for example, where you have customer sort of being secondary because the airport processes were mainly driven by needs of security, immigration, and the processes needed for the functioning of the airport. The next 40 years, because of the pivot point where we find ourselves with technology and the use of smartphones and technology that improves the customer experience, then we can now start to look at the more social aspect of an airport design, not just the technological and security aspect. So that's a big shift that we're seeing, and it's going to influence how we think about the buildings and the experience of a customer, all the way from a hotel in the city to the check-in gate. So we will no longer be thinking just about the drop-off at the airport, but we will think of how do you get somebody from the city center, from the hotel, and what are the opportunities for a traveler to experience, what we call kind of high-tech, low-touch airport experience. And that's something where you avoid queuing and congestion within the terminal. And part of doing that means that the technology can be used to avoid pinch points. And you use strategies like online check-in, hotel baggage drop-off, pre-screening for security and immigration. And these are all processes that in the past, they were being done at the airport. So they create large pinch points where people are queuing. And so what we would like to do as designers is to tie the airport experience into a more seamless, continuous experience for the customer. And one of the benefits of this is that by removing queuing from the airport terminal, you can maximize the potential for retail, which is one of the big revenue sources for airports. You've got retail, parking, and landing fees for airplanes. And so a lot, when we were analyzing the footprint for Navi Mumbai airport, for example, we realized that good 25% of the footprint of the building is wasted space where people are just standing and waiting for a process to be played out. And that's the kind of thing that we would like to study more closely with companies in aviation who provide smarter solutions for security scanning, for immigration and things like that. And this is part of that pivot point where we find ourselves, and we're going to have to rethink airports for the next 40 years. The final thing, which is kind of a development of this idea of customer-centric experience for the airport terminal, is that the airports can then become a destination in and of themselves. They're not just a transportation hub. And for example, at Western Sydney Airport, the client wanted us to think of how we could integrate not only the airport function once it's built, but the airport construction into the cultural life of the region. Western Sydney is basically the third city of Sydney. There's the Sydney by the harbour, which everybody knows with the Sydney Opera House. There's the Sydney of Parramatta, which is where Sydney had the Olympics a while back. And now there's Western Sydney, which is kind of the fullest extent of Sydney Basin near the Blue Mountains. And as these different parts of the airport of the city are developed, then the new airport can actually become a hub into this western part of Sydney, which is mostly rural right now, very small towns, and they don't really have amenities like shopping centers, museums, things like that. So Western Sydney provides an opportunity where the airport can become a city center. And part of our planning, the master planning for that one, is we've made this very large plaza space between all the terminals. It's going to have 4 terminals. And within that plaza space, then you can start provide amenities for the wider city, not just as a transportation hub, but as a destination for the airport. So to summarize, basically you have traveler expectations, which are high-tech, low-touch for the airport processes, and then rethinking how the airport can fit into the wider context of the community. And I think this is something that we'll start to see around the world, like our previous experience in China with the new Beijing airport. That's strictly a hub. Navi Mumbai, we started to rethink a bit more of how that airport fits into the region, because it's closer to the city center, and it's part of Mumbai's development to the east. And then Western Sydney, as our third kind of experience, is one where there's a whole new city and it needs a cultural amenity, and that's where the airport can do double duty. So these are some thoughts from the designer's perspective of how we're having to reconsider airport design.
I think that's again very interesting, because I mean Changi as a tourism destination, I mean that sounds so interesting. I mean flying all the way to Singapore, and you have the complete you know, the Aerotropolis has the mixed use development is being handled so beautifully that you can have your convention, you can have your entertainment, you can have leisure, you can have myriad of experiences as part of Aerotropolis itself, besides top of the line business connectivity. And you know, the logistic connectivity also becomes very, very critical. So I think from that perspective, yes, I think it brings in a very strong perspective. And thank you so much for your input. And I look forward to coming back to you again, because this is definitely very, very, you know, intriguing. Now I'd like to get a perspective of a marketer and an end user equally. I'd like to bring to center stage Sandeep Shukla. Sandeep, you know, as a prolific marketer and end user equally, how do you feel dependence on technology is taking away the sheen and warmth of human touch when it comes to delivering on customer service, particularly in context of engagement at airports? And more so, is technology truly an enabler? Sandeep.
Thanks, Mohit, and what a great panel we have. And you know, I love to be more like a traveler, you know, so I can more be a crybaby, you know, more. I think with because my profession is marketing communication, so you know, I always love to be closer to end customers, and that's what my DNA and that's what I've been training and grooming has been. I feel technology is all good, but it's all about people, you know. And technology is just an enabler, but eventually it's not the end. And what we need to really see it, the two aspects, you know, the service provider and the service receiver, you know, and somewhere technology sits in between, you know. I think, for example, India has come a long way, you know. I remember from where we started and today, you know, it's really, you know, you feel good when some, you know, people, your colleagues travel from, you say, hey, you guys are far ahead, you know, the way you have designed, your size, scale, the managing people, you know. But if we see best airports, whether it's, the Nancy Changway, or, you know, for that matter, Changi Airport. And Changi is very close, not just because any reason, you know that my daughter left for 3 years back to Singapore to study, and you know how these hyper moms track their child, you know, from the main gate. So you know, we had amazing experiences, you know, at Changi, and then you know it forced me to really seek what exactly the vision statement and what makes Changi a Changi, and you'll be amazed to see, the vision statement say exceptional people connecting lives. No, that's something, you know, which is like a superlative approach, you know, to even the internal people, which is a service provider and the receiver. They could have said that they want to bring delight to end customer. They're saying connecting lives. And as Nandita said, you know, you have all sort of people coming to airport. You know, somebody is going for medical reasons, somebody is going for tourism. It has a completely different perspective. It's just a space where so many lives are there and how you connect with them. I remember an example, you know, my daughter was not well that day and her phone conked off. They ensured that, you know, every minute we are informed, and a personalized email, and they're following up, and they're still connected with her, you know, and imagine at the young age, the kind of impression you leave, you know, and she's like a big marketer, and so what a point I'm trying to bring in here is that technology is all great, but it's all about who we are doing it for and who are the people. You know, if I don't have a great resting place for the, you know, the people who are working 24/7 at the place, you'll want to have a challenges there. So I think somewhere, as Nandita has rightly said, we are a complex nation. We have a different strata of customers. So you have to probably sooner or later, because your topic is very interesting, is reimagine the space. If you have to really reimagine the space, probably the time will come, you have a different classes. A space can connect you, but today the need of a business class traveler is very different going for a tourism versus if I have to go to Mumbai in morning, evening, or I have to go for any reasons. It's very, very different. So I think somewhere we have to break, between essentials versus, something which is important, desirable. Okay, we can have a museum or a butterfly museum at the something like that, but we want to have a great washrooms. We need a robust washrooms. We need more safety for our elderly people. We need to have, we have these great check-in counters, but how Indians, adult, there's no grooming finishing schools for airports. So we need to have, people to help people at the airport, and which we are doing it. But the miles to go, because the challenge of volume, the different strata of people are there. So I think going forward, I see keeping consumer at the heart of the discussion. Yes. Understand what is his needs and nuances. And once we know that space, I think technology is great. I still remember rushing to the printer machine to have a boarding pass. Now imagine now we don't have to really worry about it. I think a day will come, we'll show something, a phone and passports are needed. I know, that's the best thing can happen. So I think we can't shun the technology, but at the same time, if technology is for heck of it, I have a great 60-inch television screen, but if I don't have a chair to sit, somewhere I feel, and especially this Asian countries, we have a great experience of hospitality. If you really want to have a tourism, great hospitality, stay to Southeast Asia, come to India. We have this whole DNA of, customers' well-being taken care of. And if we merge with technology, then we are a force to reckon with. Nobody can beat us. I can always say that you can't beat Indian buffet. The kind of spread and then the kind of quality. So if I can take a technology from Western worlds, we can take the best of the nuances and the processes in place and retain the humility and the customer service angle. I think we are bound to succeed, and which we are. What needs to be seen is how different strata of customers. The lower middle class people, like people going to Dubai for work. I'm sure they need not to go to any shopping place, and they will not have a Gucci or a Armani. They will pick that. But I think for them is a water machine, which is easily accessible and visible. So things like that, and I'm sure designers will take into account. And this is where I feel, coming from a bathroom industry, I always check these places more often, not just because I need the reason, is that how these small little things become irritants. And if we can get out, the devil lies in the details. So these are the details which I'm sure if we all take into account, we are bound to succeed in this space.
Thank you so much. Can't agree more with you, Sandeep, because, and I fully agree with you, quite reckon with you, that finally at the end of the day, it is small things that really matter, are of a much larger consequence. And also at the same time, your engagement, your accessibility within the airport, I think that definitely matters a lot. And as you very correctly said, that technology as an enabler, but not the end. I mean, you can never ever, take away the warmth of the human touch, the human interface. Thank you so much. Point very well taken. With this, viewers, we come to the end of round one. And as we begin round two, I would like to bring to center stage Mr. Manoj Gangal again. And I would like to discuss with you, Mr. Gangal, that airport Internet of Things, smart sensors, visualize safety, and personalized customer experiences. How do you envisage transforming passenger experience to thrive in the new economy? Mr. Manoj Gangal.
Yeah, good afternoon once again from Kolkata, because there are people from London also. It's like this, and good morning to you from here. Yeah, it's like this. We were just talking about human touch angle and all those things. Now, what you're talking is totally a different perspective altogether. Anyways, you see the IT facilities at the airports are really doing a wonderful work in terms of facilitation and also in terms of regulation. why I say facilitation is that's for the seamless travel, wherein you don't have to, somebody was just saying that he had to stand in a long queue and all those things. So now those things are not there at all. The queues are evaporating or not there at all. Because right from home, you can do lots of things and come to the airport and can straight walk into this security hold area and even to the aircraft. In this, the DG Yatra, the ongoing DG Yatra is doing a wonderful work, wherein the face would be the passport. And whether it is entry to the airport or to the security check or the aircraft boarding, everything would be done based on the facial recognition.
Okay,
so that's very important. So that's very important. Besides this, especially during pandemic, lots of documents which were passing through the human hands, now they are being looked into electronically. And as a passenger, you feel very comfortable that, without any documents passing to somebody's hands or something like this, you pass through all the processes. And finally, you come to the boarding gate and you are at the inside the aircraft and ready to take off and, to continue with the journey. So yeah, definitely IT plays a major role. And it also plays a major role in the regulation part, wherein, any thing we should not be doing at the airport in terms of, you can call it whether anti-smuggling or, smuggling things, or even something to do with the terrorism and all those things, what we are taught at the airport. And how to control that, how to curtail that, there also the technology plays a major role. So I will say that the technology is playing a major role to facilitate the seamless travel, the same hassle-free travel, and also to see that the whatever travel is made from the airports, that's very safe, not only for the individual who is traveling, but also for the others, whether they are the co-passengers or they are the people working at the airports or anybody who is connected with the airport. So that's what the technology has a major role to play.
Surely, thank you so much. So I think we can be assured that in times to come, it's going to be biometrics ruling the roost and not too many touch points, at different levels of engagement at the airport. Thank you so much. I think that was indeed very, comfort. I would use the word comforting first, insightful later, because we know what it means to stand in queues, and no doubt. I think now we'll have to get back the designer into the mainframe, and it's again a pleasure coming back to you, Abhin. That would like to understand from you, and also for the interest of the audience who are here today online, what defines a smart airport? Smart airports that exploit the power of emerging and maturing technologies, and this smart airport further a gateway to smart cities. Since you are involved from the air side to the land side to the terminal, I think you are the best man who can give us so much of insight. I mean, to the viewers, to the audience, what essentially is a smart airport, and how do we understand that, it's a gateway to smart cities? Abhin.
Thank you for that question. I want to mention to you that my firm also designs smart cities.
Okay.
So for this kind of question, now, just for Mr. Gangal's information, amongst those 25 airports he's doing, we've done the Kuch Bihar airport for him, which he mentioned. And we've done one at the Durgapur. So even these small towns, there's this, as Mr. Gangal was mentioning, just let's not look at all these large airports. Let's also look at all these small towns. And it's not a smart city. It's from a village from a town, to the terminal. It's kind of integration that is taking place and that is going to take place. So perhaps what I'll do is I'll simulate a journey to you. Okay. Let's just imagine you're at home. You've gone onto your mobile phone. You've checked in. You've already told the airline, that you're leaving now because you booked your smart car, smart taxi, whatever transport you have. If your wife is driving you to the airport, she has booked a car parking spot at the airport. She knows exactly where she's going to park because the car parking at the airport is basically informing her that this is time travel going to be taken. Now you got into the city grid. So you know which is the shortest route you'll go. So through your GPS, you're guided how to travel, you get best from the city. Okay, perhaps even if you wanted to ask what mode of transport to take. And then Armando said the journey to the airport would be as seamless as possible. You would reach the airport, you would come to curbside, perhaps at home. There is also now there's also a service being afforded in London where actually they will come and pick your bags up and take them through the check-in process. Or perhaps you landed at the airport, you're just going to deposit your bags. We've done that in Bangalore. You can just deposit your bags and the bags move through in line. You and your bags move to a separate journey from now on till you arrive at your destination. What happens to your car? Your car may be picked up by a robot and parked in a parking spot. If you're self-driven, okay, you'll move into the terminal as Nandita said. Now it'll be facial recognition. You'll move through the terminal. You're not going to have these cute systems. Even the cute systems were an evolution. Earlier, we used to be designing these check-in halls, like we did at Hyderabad, and we did it, all these different airports with a big plan about how these will expand. But now the cute systems, which are kiosk, can book into any airline at one time. Every airline used to have its dedicated queue system. Now the queue system works for everyone. So what happens is that actually you're integrating things. You're reducing the need for that space. After all, you may have checked in at home, so you don't need the queue system either. You've just walked into a seamless experience. You don't need to go through the security and you don't have to wait in a queue out there. You already passed through the security, because even now, let's say in UK, they are just trying out a system by which they can examine everything, even the liquids in the bag. The smart technology knows that Nandita travels with so much toothpaste, so much in his kit. Sorry to say, there's good things about technology and bad. They know exactly how you travel.
Oh, yes.
It's not part of a database. It's all being informed from the city to, the airport. Okay, and so they know who you are. They know how likely you are to be a terrorist or not a terrorist, and what you're likely to do. In fact, as you move to the shops, you may look at your, screen, and they will guide you to the kind of shops you like and tell you where they are. If you're a person who's, can't see properly, is visually impaired, perhaps you'll have a headset which will speak to you and tell you how to move through the airport. This is already happening in airports in Japan. Okay, and not only that, as you move through, okay, when it's time for you to board the flight, you'll be called personally. Please, Alimchandani, get to your station. The people at the gate will know that you're coming. The people on the airline will know you're coming. The people at your hotel where you're going to land, right, will know when you're coming. Okay, because you land, right? When you land, at that time, you're going to be picking up your bags. As you're picking up your bags, you'll probably be able to track your bags. You know in how much time your bag is coming if it's delayed. Okay, and your bags may be also dropped off directly home. In Paris, in Charles de Gaulle Airport, they've with an idea that a lot of people, they come to the airport with these large bottles. Then these bottles are thrown into a bin in front of their face. It's a very sad experience. So how to get rid of that experience? So they've come with an idea that's very simple. It's not very high tech. It's got the human touch. They said, listen, we'll transport your stuff home. So what they do is they take your stuff, they get your signature, and they transport your stuff home. And they got a 99% success rating saying people are happy. That little tension has gone from. So it's all about making you feel good, making you feel that there's a great service. And of course, it's all about business. Because, I'll give a very simple example. When we were planning the Hyderabad airport, one of the things that they wanted was that as you stand in the airport, you want to have the maximum dwell time retail area. But the problem is you want to quickly go to the gate. And there's the tension between staying in that retail and making your purchase and having that maximum footfall and going to the gate. So we actually came up with the idea that at all points, let's make the gate visible. Let the person be able to see. So we kept all the retail at a lower height so that you could actually see right through, okay, in transparency to your gate. There are psychological things that give the human touch. Like if you're going right down the pier, if it becomes too long, okay, it becomes something, very, very scary. Oh, I got to walk such a long distance. So you actually bring in light and intervals. So what happens is that you feel that there's a pause. You make something exciting happens so that the person looks to the left. In Mumbai airport, you look at the wonderful artwork as you travel along and you forget about the long journey that you're taking. So these are the exciting human aspects because as he said, Bangalore, the new Terminal 2, where we designed, the whole airport is an airport in the garden. You should feel that you're actually walking in a garden and then you just boarded this flight and landed up, Zaha Hadid's Navi Mumbai airport. So it's a question of making people feel really great about where they are. And the human touch is going to come through the character of the space and the character of the service that will give you. The service is as important as the space. We also design hotels. And I'll tell you as an architect, you can never be proud of the hotel, isn't it? It's the food, it's a wonderful service that makes you feel really welcome, So it's that really makes the airport tick, according to me. It's not just the design is an enabler, but it's also the kind of service that the airport authority is giving them. And I think kudos to airport authority, they've gone miles. Now, the kind of airports they're coming up with and the speed at which they're coming up with these airports is all fantastic. I was told within 2 weeks to tender out the Agati airport, in the middle of COVID. So there's a rush to build these things, and hats off.
Surely. Thank you so much. Thank you, Abhin. This was definitely enlightening. I would use the word enlightening. The only constraint that I feel is that now security will be able to snoop all the Haldirams that I carry with me.
Not only that, all your information is available. So yes, the big brother is watching you, but you're having
very true. But again, I think all said and done, very appreciative of Airport Authority of India, the kind of a roadmap, the kind of a vision that we are all able to witness. And needless to say, the support of top designers, Abhin, Armando, and SOM, and all of them who are working, redesigning, rechristening this space. I think it's a phenomenal story. Coming back to you, Nandita, I would like to again bring you back to the same. You'll say I'm again talking about headwinds and tailwinds to you, but again, recession and slow economic growth are causing headwinds in airport development. What is the scope to automate and adopt new technologies on older airports? See, we fairly understand that India, again, as I said, being a country within a country, we have had so many airports, most of them operational, yet there are some old airports that, again, you need to, see that how you are able to scale up operations over there. How do you think that, with all these kind of slow economic growth, what we are witnessing even during the COVID times across the globe, what is the scope to automate and adopt new technologies at the older airports?
Well, firstly, with Abhin talking and Jaquar coming and all the growth that is happening, I think economic development is nowhere stopping such a resilient industry that we are to grow further. I think they've all spoken a lot when it has come to artificial intelligence and the IoT and talking of technology, which is walking out. So with us, the fact is that we will survive in one way or the another. But when you talk of airport industry, we're actually double burdened and loaded rather than what hospitality is. So we're expected to give best of the technology, and at the same time, we're expected to give the best of the service in human form also. People still need to see you. They still need to know who's the person working as an airport operator, airliner, where to walk in, who's serving them, who's not. And at the same time, there is a generation which has come up and taught us, they just want to move with their smartphones. I think today's teenager and everybody, they don't even probably would want to speak to their own parents when they're walking into the airport. So they want everything on their mobile phone. So you really have a contrast which is going in. You have passengers with reduced mobility, which are walking in at your airports. You have people with temporary disabilities. You have women who are expecting, and we just had a baby delivered in the aircraft. And I'm sure a technology couldn't have done that within the aircraft. And then after getting them down and moving them out, transplanting organs and transporting them through our airports, which need a very efficient system to move them within a dwell time. Of course, technology will walk in. Parallelly, we are overburdened when we can't remove our human factor out of it. When you talk of airports, old airports with technology, I think you may not see it because the building is not new and looking very fancy as a brand new would do. But we have already walked in with technology at our airports. So you already have self-check-in counters. You have inline baggage system, which has been now incorporated at various airports, which is of course behind the scene. See, we have a lot of backstage happening more than what is happening in the front stage. So what all the panel architects here with me are doing are actually seeing, and they will know that there is so much of an effort they put in what runs in the backstage to give what you call the complete customer experience in the front level. Nobody sees what goes in behind the scenes. So your inline baggages are in place, your check-in counters are in place. And today when you're talking of COVID happening, let me give you an example where I'm sitting today. It is a very old terminal, but we had to see how we're going to be making most of the things contactless. We have built in temporary structures and gotten technology to move where all our boarding cards and everything is scanned through cameras. And we're trying to screen passengers also through various other systems. And we have changed a lot of our DFMDs, X-ray machines. I mean, the way things are running. We are also now looking forward with PAT scanning, new kind of machines walking in where now you wouldn't even gradually need to screen your handbags. So there is an exploration going on of something which we laugh in our industry and say, your city scanned, just walk through the passage. So with your handbag, with your coat not to be removed, your shoes, sandal and heels. So yes, we are doing that. I think our X-ray machines have been taken to the next level. Many of them have been changed. So that's the technology we've walked into for security. Please also understand each country has a different regulator and norms for their securities. And sometimes it's very difficult to cope up to say why you're not doing this. I think even India tried. We had the Delhi Express running to check in at different city counters and then get them in the airport and get them checked. But per se, some of our rules and regulations don't allow us to check in a luggage till the passenger is not there physically. So you need to verify that the bag belongs to this particular person. So you need to understand how much of a technology you may get. There are some rules and regulations and policies which will need to be emphasized on to get in line with that. So synchronization, what I believe has to be there, and perfect balance between that. And Sandeep was very right. How much ever we grow with technology and grow with everything, but the minute it will come to yourself or your child and someone who's not well or unwell, we need that human touch or somebody around your person to care for and comfort for, and also then take the next level of technology to get in touch with you and tell you that you're fine. But believe me, if we are trying maximum at our airports today with UV scanners coming because of COVID, contactless check-in, and all the printing has been stopped almost. We're just moving with the mobiles. So somebody who hasn't got a smartphone, of course, then we have a system in place and we help them out to do everything. But per se, otherwise, old airport or new, the same technology can walk in anywhere you want to change the experience. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Nandita. That's very inspiring indeed. And I'm sure for the audience who are, all of us who are hearing on the other side, I'm sure this intrigues a lot, because when we look at, and any which way you're very, very strongly a proponent of regional connectivity scheme. And when we are talking about older airports, integration to the mainstream, and also how we look at the regional connectivity, I think this is definitely very inspiring, because this definitely is a strong confidence building measure for us as travelers. And thank you so much. This was definitely very insightful. Okay, now coming back to my friend Armando again. You try your best, technology, balancing technology, human intervention. I would say when it comes to conservation of resources, all said and done, airports, definitely, I would not say that they are energy guzzlers. They are energy guzzlers, yet at the same time, the kind of a scale, the kind of an impact that they leave in the present day economic, connectivity, as hub and spoke model. Good to have Mr. Manoj Gangal back. I mean, I could see him. Yeah. So Armando, I would like to understand from you that what are the best practices around sustainability-induced developments when it comes to reimagining airport designs? See, while we talk about all these, technological advancements, integration, digitization, something, that Abhin so beautifully, apprised all of us, and we are so intrigued to hear him. Yet at the same time, this all comes at a cost, And for a nation wherein we all understand the value of depleting resources, I'd like to understand from you that what are the best practices around sustainability-induced developments as we reimagine airport designs. Over to you, Armando.
Okay, thank you, Mohit. Yeah, it's a good question because we are at like before I talked about this pivot point in terms of technology, we're also on this pivot point with our clients for airports where they're asking us to think about building airport design in a larger context than the usual sustainability targets for LEED and the US Green Building Council. And some of the ways that we're responding to that is by looking at the airport in the context of the city and the region. And what I mean by that is, for example, when we think of the airport as a source of waste, waste streams come from the airplanes themselves. When people get off, they have to be cleaned. There's paper towels in the bathrooms. There's food waste. And one of the exercises we've been doing, for example, on the Western Sydney one, is to see how we can tie the airport into the agricultural region around Western Sydney, because it's very much still an agrarian society. And there's opportunities to then say, okay, if there's waste coming out of the airplane or out of the airport, how can we treat the airport itself, the Aerotropolis, as an input into another system? It could be agriculture, for example. And what we're starting to think of is treating the airport design the way that you might run a good organic farm. Like I grew up in a village of 100 people in Colombia, and in the farm country, there is no waste because there's no waste disposal service. So everything is organic, and the output from one system is the input for another. If we can then think of the airport and the airplanes and all the waste and energy flows in that way and try to make the buildings like a good organic farm. And India has lots of opportunity because there's still a good amount of the society which is agrarian. It's still not so highly urbanized like Western countries or even China, where it's now almost 50% urban. So one of the pleasures of traveling in India for me, I was backpacking around there for 5 months, is the culture of the villages and the contact with agriculture that's still there. And so I think the slow development in India, although sometimes it's a disadvantage, in this case, I think it could be long-term an advantage because there's still an awareness of the land and agriculture and the purpose and meaning of that in helping to shape how buildings relate to that environment, which is very fragile. It's very sensitive, but it's resilient in the long term if you work within the principles of good organic farming. So that's kind of my contribution to our design teams thinking about buildings, because otherwise we tend to jump into the technology and then the high tech, and we overlook how a building, like a very large construct like an airport, can function as an organic element of the society. And airports oftentimes are found in peripheral areas, so there is that opportunity to tie it into the agriculture. The other trend that we're seeing in sustainability discussions with our clients is a much more serious, sober look at how to prepare for climate change scenarios. During the 6 months that I spent in Sydney, one of the challenges that Sydney was going through was the fire season, like the big bushfires that they were having for many months, and how that was affecting air quality, operations of highways, And for the airport, Western Sydney Airport, which is found near the Blue Mountains where these fires are likely to happen, we need to then plan on how the building can respond to climate change scenarios, which could include fires, drought, dust storms, heat waves, because normal mechanical systems, for example, are designed for a certain range of temperatures. So when the engineers, when we talk to them, and they set up certain scenarios for how much energy a building is going to use, and that's based on previous history of temperatures. If those temperatures are changing, we need to rethink the mechanical system. If we have to rethink the mechanical system, we have to rethink how much space we need to allocate in that building, or we're going to hyper-insulate the roof in order to accommodate that. So climate change scenarios are affecting us in that way. That's within the building design. From the client side, we're also getting much more feedback from investors. So if there's an investment group that is putting a few $100 million into an airport, they want to know that the value of that asset is being protected, and they're actually starting to require that buildings be sustainable, that they be prepared for climate change, because the scenarios of the past are no longer relevant to the next coming decades. And one of the scenarios will have to be with health. How do you handle crisis, epidemics, and things like that? And so that might mean that you have to change your air distribution system in an airport. Might have to be more rigorous. You might have to have HEPA filters that really filter that air. And again, this ties in back to the mechanical system. So these scenarios, these future scenarios that are sort of unusual situations, we have to think about more. The final one, in terms of sustainability that we've had discussions with the clients about, is how to make the airport building more flexible, so that over the lifetime, let's say it's going to be a 50-year projected lifetime of this asset, how do you make it more flexible in terms of how it can be reconfigured for use? Retail is a prime example, because retail changes their strategy, every few years. They want to be able to reconfigure. If you're going to reconfigure the building physically, you want to make sure that it's not difficult to disassemble it, and you don't end up with a big waste stream from throwing things away. So if you think more smartly about how to panelize or how to assemble components of an airport so they can be taken apart like a Lego, blocks and reused, then that actually reduces the demand on the waste stream that a region has to deal with. So that's reconfiguring of the life of the airport within the building. And then the final one, which ties back to what I had mentioned earlier in the first question, and that's about thinking of the airport as an important asset for the community, because the more purposes that an asset can fulfill, then the more important it is and the more valuable it is. So if the airport is not just a transportation hub, but it's a hub for culture, for the arts, for entertainment, then you're duplicating the functions of that building. So that building, in the short term, we're still going to produce waste. We haven't gotten to my ideal of a good organic farm yet. But the more functions that we have out of that airport, and the more efficient that we make the building so that people aren't standing around doing nothing, then we can start to think of the building as a multiple use artifact. And that is part of sustainability thinking. It's not just about putting solar panels on the roof, although we are doing that. It's about rethinking how that building is integrated into the community and the systems around it. So these are some of the high level thoughts. More specific ones, like what are clients doing around the world? Gatwick has one of the most advanced waste recycling processes among major airports. Schiphol is looking at, pay-per-use. So instead of having an asset or some part of the airport that's just built and maintained in a certain way full-time, assuming it's going to be 100% occupied, then you might pay for or be much smarter about when that asset is being used. You know, if it's, whether it's a lift, an escalator, a retail unit, then you can start to, it's kind of like the idea of smart transportation. It's on-time delivery of a service or a product. And by being smart about how you actually maintain things like that, it can have a big impact on for example, the energy demand of the building. Other trends that are more kind of specific to buildings are doing, you know, water catchment. For Navi Mumbai, one of the biggest challenges that we had was the client, because of their previous experience on the Mumbai airport at Mumbai T2, they wanted us to really come up with some intelligent solutions of how to manage the 1 meter of water that you can get during monsoon season in India. So when we worked with the engineers and we figure out how much water that is that we have to move and how much potential there is for kind of recycling that water for landscape irrigation or for toilets, then we came up with this roof design in which no water goes inside the building. And GVK was very happy with that because it de-risks the building to a great extent, and then it allows you to then trap that water and use it somewhere where there might be a need for it. So even things like that, like these are climatic, unique conditions to a place like the monsoon regions of the world. How do you manage water? And what do you do with it once you get it off? And how do you de-risk the maintenance of an asset so that over 50 years, you don't have pipes that have to be maintained within the building next to every column or potential for leaking and all that. So that ties into facilities management, which is, it's not a super sexy part of sustainability thoughts, but for a client who has to maintain an asset for 20 or 30 years before they sell it off, it is an important part of the discussion. So that gets into the longer term maintainability of a project. And that's part of our thinking of sustainability. So those are some of the high level ones and some specific examples.
Thank you, Armando. I think this was very, very intriguing. And the best thing is that all said and done, the best practices in the world need to be shared. And I think as part of our own learning curve, I think it's absolutely a privilege to have your expertise being shared in India as we modernize the existing airports. We get into creating so many new greenfield airports in India. I'm sure Abhin will agree with me that all these, knowledge sharing platforms, we learn from the world as much as the world learns from India. So I think all said and done, a great understanding on this. Thank you so much, Armando. And as we come to the end of the round two, my last question goes to Mr. Sandeep Shukla. See, sensor-led technologies is gaining traction in renewed sensibilities of engagement and design. Sandeep, how do you foresee the impact of technology interface in times to come? Appreciating that Jaquar has some smart solutions to offer for airports, both existing and new. Since we are running on time, Sandeep will request a quick one. I know Mr. Gangal has to leave. So just a quick one from you, Sandeep.
Mohit, if you really see, I think a lot has been said by my fellow panelists, and it's like the way Abhin took us through the journey, I felt like let's move on now, let's board now. So, the heart of any technology intervention is efficiency and enhanced customer experience. And as you know, Jaquar is one of the largest manufacturer and one of its kind, which offers complete bathroom and lighting solutions. We work very closely with architects and various firms, to really create products which are, efficient, which are technology led. Priorly from the, we are in two business, which is lighting and, and bathroom products, and water and electricity are, a resource which has to be really been, dealt very carefully, especially in a country like India. What I think we were already adapting technology in different parts, and specifically in the airports, technology was already there. And what probably COVID has done is accelerated this, this whole pace. And coming specifically for us, the sensor-led product, whether it's a motion sensor in the bathroom products or lighting, is not only for the social distancing, but the kind of, the conservation of water energy is there. It's a huge, for example, you can save up to almost 65% of water and efficiency, same thing in light. And as you know that our headquarters is the largest in Asia net zero building. In fact, it's a net plus building. And so we not just make these products for from a marketer, we, as a DNA, we are a responsible organization. So in a net, the kind of products we offer for a community of, whether it's airports or with any public places at large, with the help of architects and product designers, largely to basically enhance customer experience and build efficiency into the system. Because at the end of the day, it's a commerce, it's an economical activity. Commerce, it should not, because of any reason, commerce should not take over other things, which is customer experience. So we have to really, find these devils and make sure that, coming specifically to bathroom, which is high, which is low on maintenance products, like parking's why to have a light full day. You can have a light which works on a 20% efficiency light, and whenever there's a movement, it comes up to 100. So we can save huge much of energy and the water in that aspect. And obviously in current times is even more important that it facilitates social distancing. And in fact, as I'm talking to you, we have done a couple of airports where there is Nagpur recently, which is completely sensor based now. I think the Chennai we have done it, and I think I really echo what Nandita was saying. India is a very different country. We can't just have the kind of products which we are offering, like a foot tap rating, operating a tap, because not everywhere you can afford that way. You have to quickly convert what is the existing, as you rightly said, Mohit. If I have an infrastructure which is already ready, I can't overnight throw all my taps and bathroom products lighting. How can existingly products can be converted into sensor? And this is where Jaquar brings in a lot of in-house homegrown technology, a proud Indian manufacturer, that existing products can, whether in bathroom air lighting, can be converted rather doing a complete civil work. Now, this is also a very, very huge requirement for a country like India, that not every new airports you will have. You have existing infrastructure which quickly can be in a shape which is ready not only for the current circumstances, but future ready as well.
Surely. Thank you so much, Sandeep. This was very insightful. And needless to say, for a brand like Jaquar, is one of the most trusted Indian brands, homegrown Indian multinational into 51 countries, this is quite given. So I'm sure all the designers and the audience, they feel equally intrigued to know that yes, they are some of the finest retrofit solutions, smart solutions, all being integral to sensor-led technologies. So I think with this, we come to the end of the round two. And as I think it's difficult to summarize because this was such an interesting conversation that we have all had. And thank you, Mr. Gangal. I would like to individually thank Nandita, Abhin for all so much of insight, and needless to say, Armando for bringing so much of tremendous value on board, joining us all the way from UK, from Zaha, Hadid, also consulting us on different airports, the next generation airports, which are all at different stages of construction in India, and also many more to come. So we look forward to a lot of your association and partnership as we all, we make it a much, much better world, more Aerotropolises to come. And needless to say, Sandeep, it's always insightful to connecting with you. And I'm sure the audience enjoyed the session today. So with this, thank you all the panelists. We come to the end of round two. And I hope the audience had a good time and looking forward to more such interaction with all our esteemed panelists as we share more knowledge forums in times to come. Thank you so much and have a great evening ahead. Thank you so much. A pleasure indeed. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you.